everyone, it's Heather here at Creative Faith Art Studio. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a little tutorial. It's kind of a speed up of a journal that I made just recently, and I'm making this from an Amazon Prime envelope. I purchased a little 2-inch paper, what is it called? Those little like Fiskars thing where it cuts the little circle out. I purchased one and it came in this packaging, so I wanted to use this to make a journal. This is a similar process that I used when I used the grocery bag to make a journal. So if anyone was interested in seeing how I did that, this is the same idea. This one I am going to just use old scrapbook paper to cover up. I'm trying to use up some other things that I had, and I thought because the package was, so plasticky, I thought maybe the paper would stick better. Honestly, I don't know if that's true or not. It's just what I was thinking at the time. So the scrapbook paper isn't quite long enough to cover the whole Amazon envelope, so I cut another little scrap off using my pinking shears to give it kind of a decorative edge, and then I glued that down to the edge over here, and I just covered the other side in a similar fashion. So now that I have both sides covered, I kind of decide whether or not I should keep that one side open as a pocket, and I decide not to. I end up stitching it shut. But then I gather all the papers together while the cover dries a little bit and just fold some of them in half. I had some of them pre-folded from another project that I was working on that I decided to use these pages in. And so now I just get the other scrapbook paper that I'm adding and I'm folding them down the center for the additional pages in the journal. So now that I have all my pages folded and the covers dry, I'm going to choose some fabric for the inside pockets, and I want to add a little decoration to the cover. So I decide not to use this fabric because I don't like the way it looks, and I use some of this fabric that is one of my favorites that I only have a little of, and I've been using it a lot lately because I absolutely love it. And so I just snip the edges and tear the fabric because I kind of like the way the unfinished edges look in my journals. So that's the inside pocket, and then I use some of the other fabric that I love to decorate the front of the cover. So this is that organic cotton muslin that I use a lot, and I just stamp a little flower on the front and a little butterfly, and then I decide I'm going to try to free motion stitch some a word onto the front of it, but it doesn't work out. I have a new machine and I'm not sure exactly how it works, so I kind of gave up on it and just decided to use a permanent pen instead, which you'll see later in the video. But for now, I'm just going to stamp a little bit and do a little decoration to create the little plaque that goes on the front of the journal. And now that I have that all ready, I'm going to go ahead and get the extra little scraps of fabric and lace and everything that I want to add to the cover, and then take everything to my sewing machine and stitch around the edges. So now that I have the outside the way I want it to look, I'm going to go ahead and take that fabric off the cover, and I just stitch around the outside of the entire cover. Then I put my decorations for the outside cover back on, and I stitch those on. and then I go back to my sewing machine again to finally add the pocket on the inside. That way I don't stitch through the pocket accidentally when I do the decoration on the outside cover. So here it is now with all the stitching done on the front and on the pocket, and I'm just going to use my scissors and trim off the excess fabric. Now I really like the cover at this point, and I say this every time I make a cover, is I'm a little disappointed that I start to paint over it, because I end up adding too much color and too much paint, and I cover up a lot of the stuff that I thought was so pretty. This is where first of all, I'm going to decorate that front little plaque with the black permanent marker or permanent pen. When I tried to do my free motion stitching, as I said before, it's a new machine and I'm not sure exactly how it works, and I wanted to get this finished, so I just used the marker to kind of darken some lines up. I had a few more lines of my own, and I like the way this turned out. So now I'm going to take my homemade texture paste and my stencil that I use all the time because I really like it, and I just add a little texture to the spots on the cover, and then I write a few quotes. Some of them I wouldn't say they're Bible quotes. They may almost be Bible quotes, but they're not quite. I just use some wording that of my own from ways that I remember Bible quotes to read, so it's not really probably totally accurate, but it's pretty close. And I really like this color combination of this like kind of coral, pinky, orange, and turquoise. So I wanted to make this kind of a bright and happy cover. I paint the color on, and then I put a little gesso on while the color is still wet, and then I wipe it off with some tissue paper. And then I'm going to go back in and add this beautiful turquoise teal color that again is one of the happier colors that I've come across, and then I set that aside to dry, and I go back to my pages and get them in order to put in the book. Cover is dry now, and so I go back in with my gesso because I like those muted tones. I don't want to cover up too much, but I do want to cover up a little bit of that brightness. And this is where I think I went a little overboard because I couldn't wipe off enough paint to get some of the background to show through again. So, but that's okay because I add some things to it and I really like it anyway. It doesn't matter. A little more turquoise, wipe stuff off, a little more gesso, wipe stuff off. I kind of go through this process until I get the cover to a point where I really like it. And then I go back in with a stamp and I do rewrite those quotes that I painted over. Oh, and I also decided to decorate the inside of the journal a little bit. The pages, the new scrapbook paper was a little plain, so I went back in and added some stamping. And here you see on this cover how I've added those quotes back in, and then I decide to go over it with some matte varnish. So the cover is sealed, and after I do this, I actually go in with my gold gilding wax, and I just add a little bit of sparkle to a few places on the cover to make it all shiny. Here's the journal with all the gilding wax added. I made it sparkly just kind of around the edges and brought out some of the texture. And then I did go back into some of my pages and I added stitched in a few things, little pieces of scrap fabric, and I don't think I stitched in any pockets or anything like that. I pull the sticky adhesive off of this envelope, and I'm going to stitch that into the middle and then reseal the envelope. So if you've never bound a journal before, I use waxed linen thread and a big old darning needle. And so this is the process. There's lots of YouTube videos on how to bind a journal in this fashion. But yeah, there's the big needle. We leave a tail on it. You go through the inside to the outside, come back through the bottom hole. It can be a little tricky and test your patience. Stay with it. And then I go through the top, out to the back, and back through the middle. And when you come back through the middle, you want to be sure each of your tails are on opposite sides of the thread, and then tie them and make sure everything's nice and tight, and tie it nice and snug. And I trim the things off, and then I reseal that envelope up and add a little washi tape just to decorate it a little bit. And then I go back through the journal and I add some washi tape to decorate some of the pages a little more. So on this back page, this is kind of a big pocket page. There's a whole bunch of little pockets and tuck spots and whatever. So I add some distress ink to this page because I thought it was a little too white. And then I go through some of my embellishments and my ephemera to add a few things to that. So I add a library card to the front because I really like having that in the covers of my journals. And then I just go, like I said, go through some of the things that I've been sent or that I've purchased, and I put together kind of a little package. I also it seems like this journal has a lot to do with butterflies and birds, so I unintentionally made it this way. But I decided to just add a few things of ephemera into the journal. I was gonna actually staple some things in, but I realized I was out of staples, so I just used the paper clips to kind of tuck things away, and I add a few of the smaller items to that little pocket on the inside, and then I add the bird book pages in using washi tape, so it's just added pages. But I like the theme and I like the illustrations on these pages, and I like the way the pages are aged. They just look really sweet. I was really trying to find something bigger to put in that back pocket, so I found some things. There's some heavier cardstock scrapbook paper that I had. I put a little pad of paper in the back, and I put the postcards and little extra larger items in the front pocket. And then I use my crocodile, the big one, to put an eyelet on the back, and I use some lace as a closure. So it's just really simple, and it just ties it shut. So that's how I make these little journals from used packaging or old bags or old envelopes. I really like the process that they go through. It seems like they go really quickly. The longest thing you have to wait for is the is the cover to dry between coats of paint and varnish, but I think they turn out really cute and they're definitely usable. This one measures, I want to say 11 by 6, so it's really a nice size journal. If you like this journal and like the video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I appreciate you taking the time to watch today. I appreciate any feedback that you have, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.